The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them.
They were the heroes of old, men of renown.
These words from Genesis 6:4 are arguably among the most cryptic and unsettling verses in all of Scripture. A brief passage that for millennia has defied simple explanation, shattering conventional understandings of biblical history. Who exactly were these Nephilim? And perhaps even more critically, who were these mysterious sons of God whose unions allegedly birthed them? This single perplexing verse plunges us into an ancient enigma. Our mission today is to embark on precisely that rigorous investigation. We'll confront what we call the Genesis enigma, to meticulously peel back the layers of this ancient text, examining not just what it says, but what it meant to its original audience, and how its meaning has been debated for millennia. This journey will take us through forgotten ancient Near Eastern mythologies, critical textual analysis, and the varied interpretations of seasoned scholars. We aim to illuminate the unsettling truth about the Nephilim, moving beyond simplistic narratives. But where does one even begin to untangle such a profound biblical mystery? To begin, we must first acknowledge the most widely accepted interpretation, one that has permeated Western thought for centuries. The sons of God are understood to be fallen angels. In this traditional view, these divine beings descended from heaven, saw the daughters of man, human women, and driven by lust, corrupted humanity by taking them as wives. Their monstrous offspring, the Nephilim, were then seen as giants, powerful and wicked, embodying the ultimate transgression of cosmic boundaries. This understanding, while rooted in Genesis 6 itself, gained significant elaboration and influence from ancient apocryphal texts, most notably the Book of Enoch, which vividly details the Watchers' rebellion and their progeny. This angelic interpretation forms the bedrock for countless theological frameworks, often serving as the primary explanation for the widespread corruption that precipitated the Great Flood. However, to truly grasp the weight of this interpretation, its context within the broader cultural currents of the ancient world is essential. To truly appreciate the Nephilim enigma, we must first step back, not just centuries, but millennia, immersing ourselves in the vibrant, often startling intellectual landscape of the ancient Near East. Picture Mesopotamia, the birthplace of civilization, or the bustling cities of Canaan where diverse cultures thrived alongside early Israel. Here, the cosmos was a crowded place, governed not by a single distant deity, but by sprawling pantheons. Divine councils, lesser gods, and powerful demigods interacting directly with humanity were commonplace narratives. Myths like the Epic of Gilgamesh, featuring a hero two-thirds god and one-third man, weren't just stories. They were fundamental ways people understood their world, their origins, and the boundaries between the mortal and the divine. This rich tapestry of ancient cosmologies provides a crucial lens, one that radically reshapes how we might interpret those 4 enigmatic verses in Genesis 6. But what happens when the very foundations of these traditional interpretations are shaken, not by theological debate, but by the cold, hard light of new evidence? Yet, such a development isn't always a dramatic archaeological find. Often, it's the meticulous work of modern textual criticism and linguistic analysis that begins to unravel long-held assumptions. Scholars, diving deep into the Hebrew original, realize the profound brevity and stark ambiguity embedded within Genesis 6:1-4. This passage, far from a detailed theological treatise, is a mere snippet, an almost casual mention that raises far more questions than it provides answers. The true discovery lies in confronting this textual reticence, pushing us beyond simplistic, dogmatic certainties into a realm of multi-layered inquiry. It forces us to re-examine every single word to understand its full semantic range within its ancient context. And to do that, we must first dissect the most pivotal phrase, the sons of God. Sons of God, in Hebrew, is B'nai Ha-Elohim, a phrase that on the surface seems to point directly to divine beings. However, the meticulous work of textual scholars reveals a far more nuanced picture. While this phrase can refer to angels or members of a divine council, as seen in passages like Job 1:6, its semantic range within the Old Testament is surprisingly flexible. Consider Psalm 82, where God addresses human judges. I said, "You are gods. You are all sons of the Most High." Here, Elohim, the very word for God, and sons of the Most High undeniably described powerful human rulers acting with divine authority, not celestial entities. This isn't an isolated instance. The term Elohim itself can denote human magistrates or powerful individuals in other contexts. This crucial piece of textual evidence, revealing the phrase's inherent flexibility, fundamentally challenges the assumption that Genesis 6 must be about fallen angels. It forces us to confront the possibility that the sons of God might be something far more grounded in human society and less supernatural. But if not celestial, then who were they? What if the sons of God were simply powerful yet mortal? This is the core of a compelling scholarly interpretation that resituates the Nephilim narrative squarely within human history. Esteemed biblical scholars, such as Gordon Wenham in his Word Biblical Commentary on Genesis, argue that B'nai Elohim here refers not to angels, but to dynastic rulers or even tyrannical kings. These were powerful individuals who, in their unchecked authority, engaged in polygamy and oppression, blurring moral lines and creating a lineage of men of renown, figures of great stature and power, rather than literal giants. Another facet of this human-centric view is the Sethite interpretation, suggesting the sons of God were the righteous descendants of Seth, intermarrying with the ungodly daughters of Cain. Both perspectives redefine the transgression, not a cosmic rebellion, but a profound human corruption. This understanding radically alters the entire premise, transforming the Genesis enigma from a supernatural puzzle into a potent commentary on human power and its abuses. But what are the profound implications of such a shift? If the Nephilim arose from human power struggles and moral decay, this interpretation frames Genesis 6 not as a celestial invasion, but as a stark commentary on humanity's inherent capacity for corruption and abuse. It connects directly to the core biblical theme of pervasive human wickedness that necessitates the flood, making the sons of God a symbol of unchecked earthly authority rather than fallen divine beings. Paradoxically, this grounded reading might make the flood narrative more relatable, perhaps even more terrifying, as it spotlights the tragic consequences of human choices. It asks, does rooting the source of evil firmly within humanity make the Nephilim account more impactful, or does it strip away some of its ancient cosmic horror? However, the textual echoes and mythological shadows extend far beyond mere human kingship, drawing us deeper into a cosmic drama. But what if the very brevity of Genesis 6 was a deliberate invitation, or perhaps a frustrating omission, leading other ancient texts to fill the void with narratives of cosmic rebellion and profound celestial transgression? And indeed, one ancient text did precisely that, the venerable yet non-canonical Book of Enoch. For centuries, Enoch served as the primary lens through which many early Jewish and Christian communities understood the Genesis enigma. This apocryphal work, far from a mere commentary, presented a vivid, shocking narrative. A group of divine beings, referred to as watchers, descended from the heavens. Driven by illicit desire, they took human women as wives, polluting the earth and begetting colossal offspring, the very Nephilim mentioned in Genesis 6. Enoch meticulously details their forbidden knowledge, their monstrous progeny, and the profound corruption they unleashed upon the world, offering an expansive, dramatic backdrop that Genesis only hinted at. Its detailed accounts of celestial rebellion provided a compelling explanation for the brevity of Genesis, shaping centuries of theological thought. But what was the deeper appeal of this cosmic drama, and how did it resonate with the wider mythological currents of the ancient world? The appeal of Enoch's narrative, and this interpretation generally, stems from its profound resonance with broader ancient Near Eastern mythological currents. For cultures steeped in stories of powerful, often capricious divine beings interacting directly with the mortal realm, the idea of sons of God as celestial entities was not alien. Mesopotamian myths, for example, featured the Apkallu, wise demigods, or heroes like Gilgamesh, born from divine human unions. This cosmic rebellion narrative thus offered a compelling why for the profound wickedness preceding the flood, grounding it in a widespread ancient understanding of supernatural intervention. Scholars like Michael Heiser, utilizing linguistic and contextual analysis, argue for a divine council framework where B'nai Elohim are indeed members of God's heavenly court. Their transgression, in this view, led to Earth's corruption, providing a theological explanation deeply integrated with regional cosmologies. Yet even this deeply contextualized interpretation, compelling as it appears, faces its own significant theological and textual hurdles. However, even within traditional biblical scholarship, this cosmic drama presents these difficulties. The most prominent objection asks, how could spiritual beings, traditionally understood as non-corporeal angels, engage in physical procreation with human women? Furthermore, the Nephilim are explicitly mentioned again in Numbers 13:33 after the Great Flood, when the Israelite spies report seeing the descendants of Enoch, the Nephilim. This raises a profound textual contradiction. If the flood was a divine judgment meant to cleanse the earth of their corrupting influence, how could they reappear? Many scholars, even those with more traditional leanings, find these inconsistencies challenging to reconcile, often leaning towards interpretations that avoid such paradoxes. These thorny questions, however, were not merely academic debates. They deeply influenced how ancient communities decided which narratives were authoritative and which were ultimately excluded from what would become the biblical canon. This is where the story of the Nephilim intersects with that formidable process. The very narratives offering the most elaborate explanations for Genesis 6, particularly the explicit angelology of texts like the Book of Enoch, faced a critical juncture. For centuries, Enoch shaped early Jewish and Christian thought. However, as theological doctrines solidified and religious institutions gained authority, human choices defined the boundaries of sacred scripture. Mainstream Judaism and later influential Christian councils excluded texts presenting problematic angelology or speculative narratives. The detailed accounts of angels procreating with humans, as seen in Enoch, created theological discomfort and challenged emerging orthodoxies regarding divinity and humanity. This wasn't merely academic debate. It was a struggle for theological coherence and institutional control over revealed truth. Paradoxically, the truth about the Nephilim became less about uncovering an ancient event and more about who defined Scripture. This realization that the Nephilim narrative was shaped by theological and political decisions forces us to consider its enduring symbolic power. Ultimately, whether fallen angels or tyrannical kings, the very ambiguity surrounding the Nephilim compels us to confront something far deeper. Therefore, when we step back from the fervent debates over literal identity, whether B'nai Ha-Elohim denotes powerful human rulers or rebellious divine beings, a profound thematic synthesis emerges. The Nephilim narrative, in both its human and celestial iterations, consistently grapples with the breaking of boundaries. It reflects ancient anxieties about the precarious lines between the divine and the human, the sacred and the profane, order and chaos. This cryptic passage, then, functions as a powerful mythopoetic exploration of transgression, a foundational story explaining the origins of pervasive wickedness and the consequences of violating established cosmic or social structures. The Nephilim, ultimately, are not just figures of legend. They are potent symbols of an ancient world's wrestling with the very nature of forbidden knowledge, illicit power, and the profound corruption that results. But what if this inherent ambiguity, this lack of a definitive answer, isn't a textual flaw, but a deliberate feature? What if the very brevity of the Genesis account isn't a textual oversight, but a deliberate narrative choice? A strategic ambiguity designed not to provide definitive answers, but to provoke continuous contemplation? Perhaps its enduring power lies precisely in its refusal to be fully resolved, forcing generations to grapple with the unknown, to confront the blurred boundaries between human and divine. This isn't just about ancient history, it's about the very function of myth. It challenges us to look beyond literal details and ask, what enduring truth does its mystery convey? This profound contemplation brings us to the core findings of our investigation. Our journey into the Genesis Enigma has revealed a landscape far richer and more complex than any single definitive answer. We began with a few cryptic verses, a textual anomaly that has baffled scholars for millennia. We've dissected compelling theories, from the sons of God as powerful human rulers whose unchecked authority birthed a lineage of tyrannical men of renown, to the interpretation of divine beings, akin to the Watchers of Enoch, intertwining with humanity to produce monstrous hybrid offspring. Both views, rigorously supported by textual evidence and ancient Near Eastern contexts, underscore the deep anxieties of the ancient world. The Nephilim therefore remain a vibrant subject of academic debate, devoid of simple, universally accepted conclusions. This complex interplay of historical, linguistic, and mythological evidence demands critical inquiry and a nuanced understanding. It challenges us to embrace ambiguity rather than demand certainty. But perhaps this enduring mystery, this very lack of closure, is precisely the point. Ultimately, the Nephilim stand as a stark reminder of the ancient world's wrestling with the boundaries of humanity and divinity, a paradox etched into the very foundation of our sacred texts. This compels us to confront not just what was written, but why it was written with such deliberate ambiguity. What does this profound lack of definitive answers reveal about our own persistent fascination with the unknown and our struggle to categorize the inexplicable? This journey into the shadowy corners of Scripture is never truly over. The complexities surrounding the Genesis enigma invite more questions than answers, demanding our collective contemplation. We've explored the academic theories, the mythological echoes, and the profound implications of the Nephilim narrative. Now we turn to you, our discerning audience. What are your most compelling insights into the identity of the sons of God and their controversial offspring? Do you lean towards the human ruler interpretation or the cosmic rebellion of divine beings? Share your nuanced perspectives in the comments below and join our ongoing investigation into biblical mysteries. If this deep dive has ignited your curiosity, there are many more untold stories awaiting discovery. The enigma of the Nephilim reminds us that Scripture is often a tapestry woven with threads of history, myth, and profound human questions. If this exploration into the Genesis enigma has sharpened your critical lens, perhaps you're ready to unravel another foundational mystery. Consider joining us as we next delve into the historical authenticity of the Exodus narrative, myth or memory, a journey that challenges deeply held beliefs about one of the Bible's most iconic stories. Or, if the philosophical depths of ancient texts intrigue you, our investigation into the hidden meanings of the book of Job awaits. Continue your quest with biblical mysteries. After exploring the Nephilim's deliberate ambiguity, which interpretation, human rulers or cosmic rebellion, do you find most unsettling? Tell me in the comments. I read and reply to every single one. This journey isn't over. Next, we connect the Nephilim directly to the Book of Enoch, asking why this pivotal text was banned. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this if you seek truth. Share it with someone who needs to see it.